Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and I'm going to be talking about ancestral veneration. What do we say is ancestral veneration? So many people look at the Igbo spiritual system and they say that we worship the dead because we venerate and we acknowledge our ancestors. Now the thing we have to understand is that when a word is changed from its original language, it loses its meaning. So it's a semantic issue. Now what our people look at veneration or acknowledgement is ego and more. Ego more, to talk to a spirit, to acknowledge a spirit. Now once we perform some of the rituals, something like Isite ritual or a lot more. Now all these words have nothing to do with worship in the Christian sense. You can say venerate, you could say acknowledge. Now how do we do or practice all these rituals in Igbo spirituality? Now we acknowledge the spirits of the dead by imbuing their essence in effigies that we call Igbo Ndi-ichie. That's where we keep the essence of Igbo ancestors. Now back in the day, they have this patio, the Obi, where they keep the essence of the ancestors. Now currently, because of Christianity, some of those things have been destroyed. So what we now do is, maybe as a man, you wake up today and you have some kind of revelations and you feel you need to acknowledge your ancestor. We do the rituals of Isite rituals in a way to just acknowledge and know your ancestors. Now in this movie Coco, we'll see here that these ancestors were, they built an altar, they raised an altar. Now it is not just a movie thing. In Mexico, in Mexico they do it. In India they also do it. People that have this Buddhist, Hindu kind of belief system, they also do it. Now in Igbo spirituality, we have ordinary. Now, just like these people raise altars and dedicate these altars to their ancestors, which is also targeted at them remembering their ancestors. Because if you remember your ancestor, our people will say, so once you look at your ancestry and you recognize that there's a certain flaw in your ancestry, and you can only know that by remembering your ancestors. Now when you remember your ancestors through those rituals that we perform, that's why we call them Elomor or Isite, rites that acknowledge the existence, what these ancestors did, the kind of life they lived, how they were able to build monuments, how they were able to basically fight, struggle, and secure the lands that most of us are now fighting ourselves over. So this is the reasons why we perform all these rites and all those rituals. It's going to be a terrible thing that after you've lived your life and you're gone, and your children forget about you entirely. It is going to be a disgrace, because centered around life, centered around everything that is targeted at promoting a life. Because having a living descendants means that your children are supposed to remember you, and you did not just live a meaningless life. You did not just live and just die just like that without keeping anything to remember you by or to remember you with. So that's the Igbo perception. So how do we acknowledge these ancestors? Now I've talked about Isite rituals or Elomo or Igbo Ndi-ichie. Now these rituals are primarily done by men. They are primarily done by men. The reasons why it's primarily done by men is that a woman is going to marry, and she will be married into probably a different community that is different from the one that she was born in. Now this is why people believe now a woman does not have a permanent residence, because she would marry probably into a new family, or she would be married outside of her community. So women don't have this close interaction with Ndi-ichie. Now although this happens, when a woman dies, she's also expected to be brought back and buried in her father's house, because that's her origin. And this is why we have this proverb, Isinwada Ada Tonamba. So because of this Igbo adage, Isinwada Ada Tonamba, Whenever a woman dies in her husband's house, she's brought back to her father's house and she is buried there. Now from there she would become what we call Ndi-ichie nwanyi. Ndi-ichie nwanyi. They also have their own functions, all those people. So primarily, this ritual is primarily done by men and not just any man. This ritual is primarily, it is done by men and not just any man. It is done by the father or the oldest man in a lineage, Nguru. Now, if you're the first son, it is also your right once your father is not around. Then if you're the second son, you'll have to get explicit permissions from the first son before you carry out all this rites. Now, as a woman, if I want to carry out this rites, I would have to talk to my father. And if my father is not around, I will now have to talk to my brother. Now, that's the ancestral perception on how we Igbo people acknowledge our ancestors and the reasons why we acknowledge our ancestors. Now, just know that it's essential for you to remember your ancestors. Remember them. Now, even if you don't want to be part of the Igbo ancestral way of doing things, you can as well raise an altar for them, keep their photographs, hang them on the wall, and teach your children about your ancestors. Because when you know your ancestors, you have known yourself, and when you die, you would also become an ancestor. And when you become an ancestor, you will now know that it is wrong for your children to demonize you. So it's not a situation of I've gone to hell, I no longer exist, I no longer have a consciousness. We don't know that for sure. Now, even if you're dead and you're probably in your heaven and your children are still demonizing you, it is still going to hurt. So teach your children and teach them not to demonize their ancestral practices. They should learn it and they should derive wisdoms from it. So until next time, yeah guys.